Medical herbalism. Some of our most powerful medicines are growing all around us, masquerading cunningly as what most people would refer to as weeds. These humble plants are perfectly balanced medicinal powerhouses containing literally hundreds of different chemicals, all in a natural state of balance. Medical herbalism, also known as phytotherapy, is a vast subject which is outside the scope of this book, but it deserves a mention because it constitutes a large part of my life since I am a qualified medical herbalist and it is closely related to my mission. Consequently, throughout the book, I have included brief descriptions of the medicinal properties of some of the wild flowers and other plants that I have seen on my walks. First, a bit of history. There appears to be a considerable amount of ancient evidence showing that formal systems of herbal medicine were practiced well before the time of Christ. Some of these include the following. A. Archaeological evidence shows that our ancestors were using medicinal plants as far back as Neolithic times, and possibly even further back than that. Indigenous cultures throughout the world and throughout the centuries have used herbs for various healing and culinary purposes. B. Clay tablets created in ancient Babylon around 5,000 years ago contain lists of several hundred medicinal plants. C. The ancient Egyptian text, the Ebers Papyrus, approximately 1600 BC, contains lists of around 700 different plant medicines, charms, and incantations. D. Evidence also exists from China, where it is believed that herbalism was being practiced during the Shang dynasty, approximately 1700 BC. Shen Nung's Herbal, written in 273 BC, is a compilation of several earlier works. E. The writings attributed to the Greek physician Hippocrates, 460 to 375 BC, such as Vis Medicatrix Naturae, include around 250 medicinal herbs. Hippocrates believed that the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, acted upon some sort of vital force and became activated into humours or vital fluids. In other words, blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. F. Ayurvedic medicine, which has been used in India for at least the last 4,000 years. The medical knowledge on which this system is based first appeared in ancient Sanskrit texts, the Vedas. Between the birth of Christ and the Middle Ages, various physicians and philosophers continued to expound on, develop, and classify herbal theories and practices, including Dioscorides, Aristotle, Avicenna, and Galen. During the Middle Ages, monasteries became a primary source of medical knowledge in Western Europe, and many of our greatest herbals were written during the 16th and 17th centuries, for example by Gerard and Culpeper. After that time, herbalism started to take a back seat as it slowly became eroded by the industrial era and the advent of pharmaceuticals. All in the name. The old country names and the Latin names used for herbs often reflect the innate healing properties of the plant in question and are thus valuable for identifying its uses. Some examples of this are as follows. A. Comfrey, which has commonly been called nipbone, boneset, and bruisewort. Comfrey helps to heal bones and limit the extent of bruising. The word is derived from the Old Norse word urt, which means herb or root. B. Self-heal, which is good for healing both internal and external wounds. C. Feverfew, an anti-inflammatory, which is a primary remedy for headaches and migraines. D. Elecampane, also called wild sunflower and horseheal. It was traditionally used by the Saracens as a diaphoretic for treating their horses when they were ill. The Latin name, Inula helenium, is derived from Helen of Troy, and the plant was said to have sprung up where her tears fell. Other common names are elfdock and elfwort. Elecampane was sacred to the Celts, who associated it with elves and fairies. They believed that a medical condition called elfshot in Anglo-Saxon times was caused by elves or fairies shooting arrows at humans or animals and causing shooting pains, which in modern terms translates as arthritis, muscular stitches and cramps, for which elecampane is prescribed. E. Figwort, which has many common names, including the scrofula plant, brownwort, throatwort, and kernelwort. Used externally, it has been used traditionally for treating skin problems such as scrofula, hence its Latin name, eczema, cuts and sores, and hemorrhoids, the nodular roots resembling the symptoms caused by the latter condition. F. The common nettle, which is also called the stinging nettle, nettle being derived from the Anglo-Saxon word nettel, which means needle, and it is used in herbalism for treating the very symptoms that it produces when the venom contained in the sharp spines on its leaves pierce the skin and cause a stinging or burning sensation. Apart from its use in treating arthritis and rheumatism, a lotion made from nettles is good for burns and itchy skin conditions. G. Some of the common names for yarrow include nosebleed, woundwort, and staunchweed. These all point to the wound healing, anti-hemorrhagic, astringent properties of yarrow. The Latin name Achillea millefolium is probably derived from the Greek warrior Achilles, who is said to have given sprigs of yarrow to his soldiers to help staunch wounds on the battlefield. In the past, herbalism has also been subject to an ancient medicinal theory dating back to the time of Dioscorides and Galen, called the doctrine of signatures. This theory contends that plants which look similar to various parts of the body can be used to treat disorders of the part they resemble. For example, lungwort, which has lung-shaped leaves and is a herbal remedy for treating lung complaints. Another example is skullcap, also called hoodwort or helmet flower, due to its helmet-shaped flowers, and because it was traditionally believed to be useful for treating conditions of the mind and head. Orthodox versus herbal medicine. Herbs are examples of dynamic living medicines. The metabolic processes of plants are more complicated than those of animals, including humans. In other words, they respire and photosynthesize, producing a whole host of different chemicals which are naturally balanced in the plant. When someone visits a herbalist, they are guaranteed an individual approach. There is growing awareness among the population that natural methods are more effective, less damaging to the body, and produce fewer adverse effects. Herbs are more ethically acceptable, environmentally friendly, and sustainable, and will not usually have been tested on animals. Orthodox medical practitioners employ what is referred to as the biomedical model when diagnosing and treating illnesses. They look at the physical signs and symptoms displayed and treat these accordingly with artificial drugs administered in standardized doses. Although herbalists also address the physical signs and symptoms of disease, and we should not underestimate or ignore the usefulness of modern pharmaceutical drugs, they are also aware that there is a greater power involved in healing, which underlies all existence, and that any imbalances in the healing power of nature will have an impact on the whole organism, i.e., the body, mind, and spirit. Herbalists consequently adopt a more holistic approach than the orthodox profession and try to match the remedy to the pattern of imbalance by using natural dynamic medicines, e.g. herbs, rather than synthetic chemicals, which can often produce unfortunate side effects or allergic reactions. A herbalist will aim to treat the individual rather than merely address the symptoms displayed, and this is something that many people understand and appreciate. Furthermore, herbalists have many tools in their toolbox, and the law extends way back into the mists of time, so many of these remedies have been well tried and tested and impressively withstood the passage of time. There is a vast wealth of wonderful healing plants to choose from, often growing right on our very doorstep. In other words, there are many alternatives to suit all contingencies. Furthermore, since herbalism also includes homeopathy, aromatherapy, and bark flower remedies, which, like herbalism, all work holistically on the body's subtle, innate healing powers, herbalists also have the opportunity to attack ailments from several different angles at once. The drugs used in allopathic medicine are usually produced by extracting the main active ingredient or ingredients found in a plant, which creates imbalance, and then manufacturing it or them in a laboratory. In plants, the active ingredients work in harmony with each other and the other chemicals contained within the plant, and this is why herbal remedies do not produce the side effects often displayed by a pure drug which only consists of one active ingredient. Although the quantities of the substances contained in a plant will vary slightly depending on a variety of factors such as the weather, soil conditions, time of day, and stage of metabolism, etc., they are always in a state of balance, and consequently, standardization is less relevant. Some good examples of herbs from which modern drugs have been developed are as follows. A. Meadowsweet and willow bark, which contain salicylic acid, the active ingredient of aspirin. B. Steroid drugs are still synthesized from a chemical extracted from the wild yam. C. Ephedrine, an alkaloid which is an active ingredient in a shrub called ephedra and is used as a stimulant in modern medicine. The herbal pharmacopoeia also contains many poisonous plants to varying extents, from which modern pharmaceutical drugs have been derived, such as henbane, foxglove, and deadly nightshade. These are extremely poisonous and should not be used by anyone except a highly skilled practitioner. One good example of literally hundreds of wonderful examples of a so-called weed is the dandelion, which is a plant of perfect balance on many levels and has numerous beneficial medicinal and culinary uses. The dandelion contains a glycoside called taraxacin, and it is a well-known cooling herb and bitter, which has been used for centuries for treating digestive problems and as a laxative, a diuretic, and a slimming aid. It is a cholagogue. In other words, it has a beneficial effect on the liver and the gallbladder. It is interesting to note that drugs which stimulate kidney function usually cause a loss of potassium in the body, consequently leading to possible cardiovascular problems. But this is not the case with dandelion, which is naturally high in potassium and naturally replaces any potassium lost due to its diuretic action. It is also interesting to note that bees and 93 different insects also love dandelions, and birds love their seeds. Dandelions are also currently being researched as a possible anti-cancer medicine. Furthermore, the roots of this highly versatile plant can be roasted to make a good coffee substitute. There is a wonderful legend about how dandelions first appeared on Earth. The story goes that when the first humans arrived on the planet, they caused problems because they could not see the elemental beings which already populated it, and they kept treading on them. Some of the sun-loving fairies, dressed in bright yellow gowns, had nowhere to hide, unlike the gnomes and elves who took refuge behind rocks and underground. So they transformed into dandelions for their own protection. Keeping it simple. In summary, herbalism covers an extensive field of activities ranging from medicine, agriculture, horticulture, cooking, cosmetics, and decoration. It is interesting to note that the original meaning of the word simple was remedy, and herbs were referred to as simples, because treatments usually only involve prescribing one herb at a time. In other words, keeping things simple. The concept of simplicity in herbalism is to be preferred because complex mixtures of herbs could well produce complex, unpredictable reactions. Using compound remedies is rather like hedging one's bets by using a multi-pronged approach to either enhance or compensate for the treatment offered. Herbs are naturally complex anyway. As already mentioned, they often contain literally hundreds of different chemicals, all in a state of natural balance. So why upset that balance by further complicating matters? Finally, we should remember that the human body has tremendous self-healing powers and an amazing capacity to regenerate after injuries and pathogen invasions. Sometimes it is best to simply let nature take its course and allow our bodies to do the job of healing for us. But sometimes, depending on the nature of the illness or injury, a bit of extra help may well be required.